there was only water, not a river, not an ocean as we understand it, an endless, infinite, formless darkness. Water in every direction, above and below. As far as existence could reach, no land, no sky, no sound, and no life, just water and silence. And somewhere above all of it, something watching. This is not a story from a distant mythology. This is not Greek. This is not Norse. This is not Roman. This is Yoruba, one of the oldest and most sophisticated belief systems ever developed by human beings. Born in the land that is now southwestern Nigeria, carried across the Atlantic by millions of enslaved people, and alive today in the religions, ceremonies, and spiritual practices of over 100 million people across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. This is the story of how, according to the Yoruba, the world began. And it starts with a god who was given one task and drank too much palm wine. Before we go to the heavens, we need to come to earth first. The Yoruba are one of Africa's largest and most ancient ethnic groups, with over 40 million people today in Nigeria alone, with millions more in Togo, Benin, Brazil, Cuba, Trinidad, and beyond. Their civilization stretches back thousands of years, centered on the ancient city of Ile-Ife in what is now Osun State, southwestern Nigeria. The Yoruba developed one of the most complex and nuanced spiritual systems in human history, a tradition called Ifa. It has its own philosophy, its own science, its own literature, its own calendar, and its own understanding of the cosmos that rivals any tradition the ancient world produced. At the heart of this tradition is a belief in a supreme creator, all-knowing, all-powerful, beyond the reach of ordinary prayer or petition. He is Olodumare, and in the Yoruba creation story, it is Olodumare who looks down at the endless waters below the heavens and decides something must be built. Who is Olodumare? In Yoruba belief, Olodumare is not a god you pray to directly. He is beyond that, too vast, too infinite, too complete to be approached by ordinary human prayer. He has no shrines, no priests dedicated to solely him, no festivals held in his name. He simply is. The Yoruba call him by many names. Olorun, meaning the owner of the heavens. Olodumare, the Almighty. Eloda, the Creator. Each name a different angle on something too large to be captured by a single word. And in the beginning, this infinite being looked down at the waters below and made a decision. The darkness was not enough. The silence was not enough. Something had to exist, and so he called for his son, Obatala, the god of creation, the god of white cloth, the god of purity, of mountains, of the sky, of all the Orishas, the divine beings that populate the Yoruba spiritual world. Obatala was the most trusted, most precise, the most worthy of a task this significant. Olodumare gave him three things: a chain of iron long enough to descend from the highest heaven to the surface of the waters below, a calabash filled with white sand, and a five-toed hen. His instructions were simple: descend the chain, pour the sand on the waters, release the hen, let creation begin. Obatala accepted. He gathered what he had been given, gripped the iron chain, and began his descent into the void below. He climbed down, and further down still. Above him, the heavens grew distant. Below him, the dark waters waited, and in between, suspended on an iron chain, in the middle of nothingness, Obatala passed through the realm where the other Orishas gathered. They were celebrating the way the gods celebrate, with noise and light and music and the rich golden pour of palm wine from sacred vessels. They invited him to join them, and here is where the story turns. Obatala accepted a cup, then another still. The palm wine was sweet, the company was warm. The task waiting below him seemed very far away by the time he continued his descent. By the time his feet approached the surface of the primordial ocean, Obatala was no longer the steady, precise god who had left Olodumare's realm. He was drunk. He poured the sand, but not with care, not with intention. He poured it carelessly, scattered it like a man who has forgotten what he came to do. The five-toed hen descended beside him and scratched at the sand, spreading it further, pushing it in every direction, but unevenly, chaotically. Small islands rose from the water. Patches of land appeared, but they were incomplete, scattered, imperfect. Olodumare watched from above. The world that should have been was not the world that existed, and a god who had been trusted with everything had spent that trust at a part. Olodumare did not abandon creation. He sent another, Oduduwa, where Obatala had been reckless. Oduduwa was steady. Where his brother had been careless, he was precise. He was given the same tools, sand, a hen, a chain, and the same instruction. But this time, the task would be completed as it was meant to be. Oduduwa descended. He surveyed the scattered, incomplete work below. He poured the sand with intention, steadily, deliberately, covering the waters in the way that the drunken Obatala could not. The hen scratched, the sand spread, and the land that rose was solid and vast and whole. The land had a name, Ile-Ife, meaning the land of expansion, the navel of the world, the place where, according to the Yoruba, all of humanity traces its origin. It still exists today. A city in Osun State, Nigeria, considered one of the oldest in sub-Saharan Africa, still regarded as sacred by Yoruba people across the world. From this single point of land, from this one act of deliberate creation, the world as we know it began to spread. But what of Obatala? In many stories across many traditions, a god who fails so publicly would be cast aside, stripped of power, replaced. But the Yoruba tell a different story. Olodumare, in his mercy, gave Obatala a second task, not to shape the land that had been done, but to shape the people who would live on it. Obatala was given the responsibility of molding the physical bodies of human beings from clay, each form shaped by his hands, each body formed with care, with intention, with the knowledge of what it meant to carry the weight of a mistake and be given a chance to make it right. And he took this task seriously. Everybody shaped carefully, every form deliberate, except on the days he forgot his lesson. On the days he reached again for the palm wine, on those days the figures came out differently, limbs formed in unexpected ways, bodies shaped unlike the others, people born into the world carrying the mark of a god's lapse. The Yoruba will say, this is why some people are born with physical differences, albinism, limb differences, disabilities of a body. They are not mistakes, they are not lesser. They are Obatala's special children, the ones he holds closest, the ones under his particular protection. They swore after his mistake never to drink palm wine again, and to this day in Yoruba tradition, those who worship Obatala observe the same prohibition. No palm wine, no palm oil, a covenant between a god and his regrets, carried forward through thousands of devotion. The Yoruba creation story did not just stay in Ile-Ife. When millions of Yoruba people were forcibly taken across the Atlantic during the transatlantic slave trade, one of the largest and most brutally forced migrations in human history, they carried their beliefs with them, their orishas, their ceremonies, their understanding of creation and divinity and the cosmos. In Cuba, Obatala became Obatala, worshipped in the Lucumi and Santeria traditions. In Brazil, the same figure appears in Candomblé, in Trinidad, in Haiti, in parts of the United States. Variations of the same spiritual tradition, this same creation story took root and survived. Olodumare, Obatala, Oduduwa, Ile-Ife. These are not ancient names that exist only in textbooks. They are names spoken in prayers offered this morning and ceremonies performed this week by millions of people across continents who trace their understanding of creation back to a god on an iron chain, a calabash of sand, and a choice should not have made. The Yoruba creation story is more than an origin myth. It is a story about responsibility and what happens when those entrusted with the most important task forget what they are supposed to be doing. It is a story about mercy and what it looks like when failure is met not with punishment but with a second chance. And it is a story about belonging because in Yoruba belief, every human body carries the fingerprints of Obatala. Every person, however they came into the world, however their body is shaped, was formed by the same hands, under the same sky, from the same clay. This has been In the Beginning, episode 2. Next episode, the Dogon people of Mali knew about a star that no human eye could see. Centuries before the telescope confirmed it existed, and their explanation begins not with science, but with gods who came from the water. I'll see you there.